one more important concept of physics, and that is the effect of force. Basically, force is anything that changes, or we can say a push or a pull applied from one object to the other so that there is some effect. Now we cannot visualize how the force is happening, but we can clearly visualize how the effect of force is happening. So there are certain effects of force which can be seen in day-to-day lives. So one of them is when we apply the force, an object changes from the state of rest to the state of motion. That means there is change in state from rest to the state of motion. So for example, the car is at rest. Now when we start driving the car, we are applying the force on that car, and such type of force changes the motion. That means first the car was at rest and now the car is in motion. That is an effect of force. Also sometimes when we want to pluck an apple from a tree, so the apple is initially at rest, but now when we are plucking it towards ourselves, we are actually applying the force. So the earlier the apple was at rest, but now when we are plucking it downwards, the apple comes into the state of motion. So that is the effect, that is the first effect, that is change of rest to the state of change in motion. The next is when a moving object comes to rest, that means from the state of motion to the state of rest, that means to a stationary position. So for example, if a car is driving, if car is moving and suddenly the driver applies the brakes. So what will happen? The car will slow down and ultimately the car will stop. So basically we are converting a state of motion to a state of rest. It is actually the opposite of the first effect of force when we were actually trying to change the state of rest to the state of motion. The third effect of force can be a change in direction. So for example, if you take the case of a football match, if one player passes the ball to the other player with the help of its feet, so he will also apply the force on the ball to some other direction. That means the force is used to change the direction of the ball according to the game. So that is one example or one application for the change in direction by the application of force by the player. The next effect of force can be the change in shape or the change in size. So for example, if a woman is trying to make a chapati out of dough, so she uses the dough to make a chapati. Now she applies the force with the help of a roller pin. Now this roller pin, the woman applies the force on this roller pin, and when she applies the force, she actually shapes, or we can say she gives the shape to the dough in a form of a chapati. So we can say there is an effect of force, that is there is change in shape. When we take the case of size, so for example, if I am saying the blacksmith, blacksmith is actually using a force to change the shape of an iron object. So basically he applies the force on the iron object and there is change in shape. So basically these two are examples of the change in shape or the change in size. But if we take the case of an elastic, or we can say a rubber band, when we apply a force and stretch this rubber band, after some time when we leave the force, the plastic or the rubber band will come to its original position. That is because rubber band is actually elastic in nature. After some time it will come to its original position. So you can say that the stretching of a rubber band is also an effect of force, which comes in under the category of change in size. So these were some of the effects of force. We can say a change from a position of rest to a position of motion, or the opposite, that means a car is driving, a car is moving and the driver applies the brakes. So first it will slow down the speed and then ultimately it will stop. In the third effect we saw the change in direction. Then fourth we saw the change in shape and size. But sometimes we can also apply a force to make an object move faster. So for example, if a person is cycling and if he wants to cycle fast, so he will apply more force on the pedals. So now when he applies more force on the pedals will try to move very fast and ultimately it will speed up the cycle. So the cycle will also try to move faster. So these were the effects of force, Actually the force, basically we cannot actually visualize the force, we can only see the effects of the force. This was everything about the effects of force.